Okay, guys, welcome along. Haven't got too much to mention. A couple of points before we get on to the main part of the Zoom today. But we've got some milestones to acknowledge. 50 games up for Jason Bury, Joshua Greenwood, and Gerald Jones in the field, and Lee Burns in the goal. We also have Peter Morgan doing his 600th game in the field. So well done to Pete and all those others hitting milestones. I've got an announcement to make about Steve Kushkush. He's had some personal issues he's had to deal with recently, and he's decided that he needs to step down as Goal Umpires heads coach. So I just want to thank Steve for all his time. He's been with me since I started the role in 2015, done a great job as Goal Umpires heads coach, and certainly wish him well for the future. I've told him he's welcome to come back if he wishes to in the future, but he wants to step aside to concentrate on a few other matters at the moment. And so to replace him, John Kiddo's agreed to take on the role. So you'll see John out at training this Wednesday night. Yeah, I know he'll do a great job. I had a couple of people ask me about the Aboriginal Power Cup, which is on this Thursday and Friday. I've got details finally just late this afternoon, so I'll email them out tomorrow to all those concerned. So that's all I have to say. Now, a couple of weeks ago, we had Lee Housen come on and share his thoughts as life as a AFL field umpire, and it was a lot of good feedback about what he had to say. And I've approached the other South Australian field umpires who are on the AFL panel at the moment, and they've agreed to come on. And it happens to be that one of them who's agreed to come on today was one of the umpires in the Crows Melbourne game on Saturday night. So I'm going to invite him on, but when I do ask him a few questions and I open it up to everyone else, I've promised him not to go into the controversies that are obviously a talk of the town this week. I invited him on to talk about his time as an AFL umpire and the lead up to it. And the last thing I want from this is it'd be very easy for a chat like this to suddenly become national headline news. And I just don't want to put him under that pressure. It's not fair. He's coming on this with goodwill, and I don't want to be putting him into a position like that. So when I do open up for questions, just stay away from all the stuff on Saturday night, and you can talk about yourself, about your all thoughts about that. Curtis Du Bois, I almost said Kathy Du Bois, he's using his wife's Zoom meeting link. But Curtis, did you want to unmute yourself and come on?
Yeah, I'm here. Thanks for having me, Cole.
Mate, it's absolutely our pleasure. And I guess I wanted to run through your story because it's quite amazing. I caught up with you recently and did a bit of a story for Facebook and put out a picture of you first umpiring with the amateur league back when you were 15, but looked a bit younger than that even. So yeah, just in your own words, give us a rundown of your umpiring career.
Yeah, so I started umpiring when I was 14 years old. I always had a bit of an interest in it when I was a little tacker. I think I watched the game differently. I had a weird fascination with umpiring. So when I was old enough to do it, I wanted to earn some money. We thought it was a good job to go for. I was working at KFC for about $5.40 an hour for about 3 months. And then I saw that you can earn $30 a game doing junior footy. So I thought that'd be good. So went out and did that at the Central Districts Junior Footy League and quickly got bitten by the bug. Challenges early, adapting to the job as a young guy, but really quickly realized I wanted to go up the ranks and progress, and the natural next step was senior footy the next year, so or men's footy. So went out to the amateur league, and that's when things got real.
Tell us about those days.
I was doing Div 5 to start with, so I don't know what it's like now, but in 2005, anything below Div 4 was more boxing than footy. I think it's been cleaned up a bit since, but it was hard work. So I had a few good mentors in Gary Wild and Don Marta and those guys who taught me a lot about how to control a game. And I wasn't particularly good at it at first, but yeah, I learned some lessons. I think my first game, there was a report and a melee at halftime, and that set the trend for the rest of the year. But I split my time between Div 5 and Div 1 reserves that year. And Div 1 reserves was pretty clean footy. So I was always relieved when I got one of those games. But I think I learnt most about my craft and managing games of men's footy in Div 5. So yeah, it was a great year. Very intimidating at times, but one that taught me a lot of my fundamentals that I stick by today.
Yeah, cool. Now we get on before we get on to your career path up the ranks into the sample in the AFL. You mentioned before from very early on you had this kind of dream to be an umpire. Now I'm going to see if I can.
Oh no, I think I know what you've got here.
I'm going to see if I can get this up. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about here.
Yeah, I do.
All right. So tell us when it comes up. Is it showing on your screen yet? Can you see it?
There we go. Yes, I can see that. So I was 8 years old. I was at church at Sunday school, and they just said, yeah, write about yourself and draw a picture of what you want to be when you're older. And it's I did this at 8 years old and even got the AFL umpiring uniform in there, but didn't start umpiring until 6 years later. So I don't know what possessed me to do that on that day, but clearly, there was a plan.
I just thought that was absolutely fantastic that you had this dream in your mind from so early on, and then it became the reality. So then,
actually, the funny thing about that too is I'd completely forgotten about that, and Mum had it. And then when I made the AFL, she showed me. I hadn't seen that since I'd done it at 8 years old. So that was a surprise she was keeping for me to show me when I made it.
Oh, that's awesome. So then you progressed through to sample ranks. Tell us about how that went for you.
Yeah, so got invited to trial, with the under-17s with Shane Harris out at the Sandful, and that was it was really good fun. I think I didn't really know how it would go. You know, when you're invited to a new group, I'd sort of just gotten used to the amateur league, but really enjoyed it out there, and a few of the guys from the amateur league had come through and started to do it as well. Worked my way up through the grades there, and was lucky enough to start doing league footy in 2009, and then had a fairly long career, 7 or 8 years at the SANFL, which was a lot of fun.
And we do have some young umpires that look young, you know, like they're out there, and like you said, fairly intimidating umpiring men and senior footy. You looked younger than most, even when you got to sample. How did you deal with people's perceptions of you at that time?
Yeah, well, it was when I was doing amateur league, I'd rock up and word had gotten around about this umpire who looked 9 years old. So it was either a great reaction and they were welcoming me and happy to have me, or they hated me straight away. And it was I had a lot of tough days, but I think it was character building. No matter what you look like or who you are or where you come from, you've got a job to do on the day. So as long as you start to build your own confidence and conviction in your decision making, then you're all right. So it just taught me to be confident in what I thought I saw and pay it, and then whatever happens after that is by the by. But yeah, I think it made things a little harder.
And so you did progress through the ranks and did 3 grand finals in a row. Is that right?
Yeah.
And for those that don't know the story, is it the 2013 or 14 grand final?
13. Yeah.
And so just tell that story.
So I only tell this when asked, by the way. I don't bring this up myself, but you've asked, so I'll tell it. It was 3/4 time of 2013 Sandford Grand Final when Shane Harris comes running out onto the ground. And we naturally thought we'd stuff something up badly, because if the coach is coming out at 3/4 time of Grand Final, then you think the message is pretty bad. So when we saw him come on, we were chatting amongst ourselves going, what did I miss? We missed a report. Did we stuff up a process? Then he came up and just said, boys, you're going really well. 1/4 to go. He said, yeah, we know. What are you doing out here? And then he said, Curtis, you've got the house. And I said, I don't know what you mean. Like, what are you talking about? He goes, you've won the house in the raffle, the SANFL lottery, and we're about to put your name up on the screen. We had to tell you because they contractually have to announce it at 3/4 time, and we didn't want you to have a heart attack. So, there was a raffle that we'd been fundraising for the Umpires Association about 2 months beforehand. I couldn't sell the tickets. I was trying to sell them at work, and they were sitting in the canteen for about 6 weeks. And then the night before, I just thought, oh, I want the Sandfluid to get the money, so I'll buy all the tickets and just, give back the books tomorrow. So I spent $200, forgot about it, and then got told during the game that I had the winning ticket. So yeah, surreal and undeserving, but an incredible day.
Yeah. So how did you find umpiring with that knowledge in your background?
Pressurizing, because the AFL was watching that day. They'd sent their coaches to watch that grand final because I was on the rookie list at the time. So I thought, I can't stuff this up now. If I spray my next bounce and miss 3 decisions in the last quarter, then I'm going to cook my career. So I was going to start the fourth quarter, but Michael Avon said, just go down to the end zone, take 5 minutes and chill out. And we were lucky in that the game was about a 70-point margin by that point. So it wasn't a game on the line.
And so what happened to the house? You did sell it eventually, didn't you? Is that right?
Yeah, well, we was 2 weeks before our wedding, so it was the best of the wedding gifts. Everything else sort of paled in comparison. But we lived in it for about a year and a half, and then we moved to Melbourne when I got on the list, and sold it eventually. But it was an amazing leg up for a young couple who was about to get married.
Yeah. Now, just reminded me, you're about to venture into or you may have already ventured into being a father. I understand it's all about to happen for you. Is that right? Or what has happened?
Yeah, Kathy's at 31, 32 weeks. So if my season falls off a cliff at about around 17, 18, we know why.
So congratulations and all the best for that. Do we know boy or girl? Or
little girl? Very excited.
Fantastic. No, that's excellent. So tell us about your AFL career and how that's gone for you so far.
Yeah, it's been amazing. Yeah, obviously it's been a dream I held for a long time, and for it to be real now and to have been going for about seven or 8 years, it's been a roller coaster at times, but mostly positive, as I'm sure all of our experiences are in footy. About 120 games in, been lucky enough to do a few finals and a few other memorable games, significant games like the showdown after the Phil Walsh thing. As an SA boy, to be entrusted with doing that, it was really special. But I think it's just like any umpiring. The best part of it is the friends that you make and the time you get to spend with them on the road or during games, and the stories you can tell after a few years in it. So it's been brilliant. It's been great fun. Yeah.
Now 4 finals.
Yeah.
And so tell us about those experiences.
Well, the first one was the drawn grand final, Port West Coast in 2017. So that was insane. That was a blur. When the siren went and we realised it was scores level, we had to remind ourselves what the process was for a tied game, and then it's only 5 minutes plus time on to 2 periods of that. So it feels like it's about 3 minutes and you're done. So Port kicked out to about a 2 and a bit goal lead from memory, and then West Coast clawed their way back, and we all know what happened after that.
Yeah. Okay, a somewhat controversial finish on that one too. And
something about Adelaide Oval. It tends to be.
That's right, exactly. And then the other finals.
The next year I did Richmond Hawthorn at the G. Then last year I did the elimination final West Coast and Collingwood in Perth. So that was bizarre because of COVID and how tight it was in Perth. We had to stay at a golf resort with the Magpies for about 9 days in lockdown. We couldn't leave. We left twice to go to training, and the police had to escort us and be notified every time we left. So it was a weird experience, but again, another cracking game. And it was the biggest crowd of last year because obviously there was no crowds for most of the year. So when the locals got to go to a game, they were very loud. That was pretty amazing. So then I was told I was on the bench for the semis last year. And then, as I think when you're on the bench for the semis, they say just keep training, be prepared. You never know if you get a chance at prelim, and turns out I did. So I did Port and Richmond, which again was another close, crazy game at Adelaide Oval. That's the hardest game I've ever umpired in my life. It was just relentless. There was no opportunity to really take a breath. It was just full on from go to woe.
Yeah, amazing game. And what's the biggest crowd you've been in front of?
It would have been Anzac Day 2018. I think they had 93, 94.
What's it like umpiring in front of that bigger crowd?
It's good fun. I find it naturally gets you up for the game. I think the games that I tend to struggle are ones like, the danger games, when if you've gone from a big crowd to somewhere with 11 or 12,000, it's not complacency, but it's harder to concentrate for the key moments, I think. But when you've got a huge crowd and the energy's there, and everybody's invested in it, it's an amazing experience. And it sort of just happens around you. You're so focused on what's going on that the crowd's just noise. Beyond a certain number, you can't hear anything but a roar. But it's great fun.
Now, we're not going to talk about all the controversies on Saturday night, which you actually weren't involved in. You didn't make either of those last couple of calls that everyone was talking about.
We're a team, Cole.
That's true. But that must have been a loud noise on Saturday night, because I was there and it was pumping.
It was amazing. I don't know what the crowd was in the end, but it felt like about 60 or 70. It was unreal. You guys all know we wear earpieces for communication between ourselves, and when it gets like that, you can hardly hear each other talk, even in your earpiece. It just becomes this big noise. So yeah, it was a great night of footy, great game.
And I'm going to discuss one decision during the game, because it highlights how challenging it can be to make decisions from wherever you are, because there was a push in the back, which you actually got 100% right. I think in the goal square was
Lever and Berry.
Yeah. And all the commentators, when it was first paid, it was like, "Oh, you got to be kidding." Then they watched the replay and said, "Oh yeah, that's fair enough." And so to me, that just highlights the difficulty of umpiring our game of footy. It can be the angle you're on. It can be the fact, people love to have a couple of looks at it. Yeah. People would have no idea of the pressure you guys are under. How do you cope with that pressure?
Yeah, well, I mean, and those particular decisions are so complex, because the difference between a guy holding his ground and just having hands in the back versus a guy who's pushed forward makes it so tough. So, look, the way I operate when I'm out there is it's just instinct now. So if I see something and I instinctively think it's a free kick, I just pay it, and whatever happens afterwards happens. I think in my early days of SANFL and AFL, I took quite a while to adjust to the scrutiny. It was really hard not to, read things and watch highlights and watch footy shows, and inevitably your name gets brought up in some way, and there's some controversy in something you've done wrong or right. It's still controversial. So it definitely took me time to adjust to that pressure. But I think as you get more experienced, you just learn when to switch off from footy completely, and whose feedback you really value, your coaches, your family, your peers. And then, it becomes a bit easier to pick and choose what messages you take from the footy world.
Yeah, nice. And the pressure, and this is something I didn't deal with because I couldn't bloody bounce, but the pressure in coming out, like you were the one that bounced the footy there with 40 seconds to go. And as you come in, I'm thinking, there's a bit of pressure on you here to get it right. How do you deal with those moments?
I love bouncing. I don't know. It just seems to come to me, so I enjoy it. I want the footy in my hands. For me, learning to bounce. So I used to bounce every day after school in high school. Until I got 20 straight, I wouldn't go in, and that was for about 3 years straight. So I think that's got a fair bit to do with my confidence now. But a lot of it is attitude with the way you approach it. I think some guys, the emergency will say, "Oh, we've got 10 seconds to go, boys." So for some guys, if they have the footy in their hands with 10 seconds to go, they go, "Oh, I didn't want to know that, because now I might have a recall, with 10 seconds left." But for me, I treat it as a free stat. So I want the footy. I want the chance to get another tick in the column. And for the guys who approach it like that, and there are a few of us, we tend to bounce well. But yeah, it's just, it's part of our skill. We practice it enough, so we should be good at it.
Yeah. I practiced it a lot, still didn't help me, but
must have been different footies back then, Carl.
Yeah, that's it. I'm going to open it up to I'm sure there's plenty of questions from guys on the line. There's some guys on the line that would have umpired with you, know you well. Yep. We'll take turns. Anyone want to unmute and ask Curtis a question?
Me, Curtis, you can go here. How is the umpiring fraternity acceptability in their ranks?
Oh, brilliantly. I mean, she's been around for a while now. Obviously, I got to umpire with her at the SANFL. And I think, she's such a great ambassador for the game. She's brilliant in that she has from day one bought into our culture. And anybody who does that, regardless of their background or their journey, we accept them like an absolute teammate. So she's been brilliant. She's no different to anybody else on our list.
Okay.
On the subject of bouncing, still keeping that going, do you still think it's do you still think it's viable to do it rather than throwing it up? And if you do, why?
Yeah, I do. I'm probably biased because it's a strength, so I'm in the group that wants to keep it. I think it's just a unique part of our game that it's there's a bit of excitement around it, I guess. Yes, it can present challenges sometimes, but there's other people that'll make those decisions. My personal opinion is I'd love to keep it, but if it changes, we understand why. If you ask me in 20 years when my back's ruined, I'll probably regret this answer, but yeah, I enjoy it.
Mate, great chat. This is an outstanding interview. And I'm sure we're all enjoying it. Mate, my name's Michael. Mate, there's a lot of arguments over umpires going full-time. Can you just give us a little bit of a rundown of what your week's like? Obviously, you've got another job, but your training hours, your physical training schedule, and even your diet for that matter as well? Thanks, mate.
Yeah, sure. Again, this is just my personal opinion, but for me, balance in life is important. And I think I've gotten better at balancing footy and other parts of my life as time's gone on. So if you asked me when I got on the list in 2015, do you want to go full time? I would have gone, oh, absolutely. Give me umpiring every day of the week. But now I think it's really important that I've got family time. I've got another job that I really enjoy, and footy is an outlet because that's when I feel like I perform the best because I enjoy it the most. The other thing is too, I'm not sure how we'd feel 5 days. I'm sure there'd be a way we could do it. And there's a lot of, promotion and umpiring development we could do. But for 34 of us to be full time, we'd need a pretty significant reschedule of our duties. And then the other side of that argument too is how much better does it make us? We're not sure. We haven't got data on that to tell. But currently, I work full time. Training, we actually only train as a group once a week now. We used to be twice a week. I think, so that was a bit of getting used to because we used to see each other often and do a lot of running and review and things together. And now it's a bit more self-managed. We all have GPS units. So we train off-site and submit all of our data for every session that we do. And we've got a high performance manager and those guys who track all of our numbers. And if we're not doing the work, they know because the numbers don't lie and they'll get in touch with us. But other than that, I've, again, as time's gone on, I've tried to minimize unnecessary football in my life. So, I watch games of footy if I feel like watching them, but I don't watch 5 games a week. I don't watch footy shows. I train, I do my reviews, get my feedback and try and lock each week away and move on to the next because, they roll around very quickly, game after game.
Beautiful, mate. There's a few blokes online right now that all they care about is their numbers as well, mate. So they know who they are. Mate, one more question. Sorry to take all the time, but right. There's I'm pretty big with the culture towards umpiring, that the negativity that we get. I know it's improved over the last few years, but there's I'm quite concerned at the number of kids that don't go into umpiring because they go to local footy and they see that negative attitude that happens towards umpires. Yep. Are the AFL constantly working on initiatives to help that and develop it?
They are. I mean, they do a heck of a lot of work in that space. And a lot of that work's unseen, because the big incidents that inevitably happen at a local game every year, they're the ones that grab headlines. But you don't see a lot of the work that's done with kids and retention and mentors and all those sorts of programs, of which there is a lot going on behind closed doors and I think at local panels too. But yeah, I mean, in my experience, local footy was certainly the hardest in that regard because you hear every comment and particularly, I was so young, I was, as I said before, intimidated sometimes, and it's just you and a white line and then some people that can be a little scary. But overall, my answer is always that footy has been an overwhelmingly positive experience for me. Yes, there's bad instances and things that were tricky, but for the most part, people in footy are good people, and the umpiring as a role is, one that is just something I love and I've always loved. So, that's my answer.
It's just a behaviour change, I guess, that will change over the next few years, and all of us have got an important role to play with it. Thank you, mate.
We're never going to fix it, but we just do our part.
Thanks, mate. Outstanding chat. Thanks, mate.
Thanks, mate.
Dave Bales, a quick one
Hang
here.
on, Balsy.
Yep,
Balsy, before you start, just had a message sent to me asking, related to Mike's question there, am I going to mention anything about the incident that happened in a junior game yesterday? It was Ingle Farm, Edwardstown women's or girls game where one of the umpires was hit. I was asked whether I was going to mention anything. No, because these days those games are dealt with by Sanford Juniors, so it has nothing to do with Adelaide Footy League. Obviously, a very disturbing incident. It's being investigated quite heavily by not just Sanford but the police. One of the field umpires was Josh Abbott. I reached out to today and had a chat. It was the young boundary umpire who had reported a couple of players, and his father, who was in the crowd, got into an incident, and then the young boy got upset, obviously seeing his dad sort of in the situation he was, and went over and he got embroiled in it also. Very nasty incident, and it's being dealt with by the authorities. That's all I can really mention about that. But reach out to Josh if you do have his number. Just make sure he's okay. I think he's a bit shaken up by it all. Right, Balesy.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Curtis, Dave Bales here. I don't know, you remember me from the old days, Balesy.
Absolutely.
We always have a good time after the game with the players, so we have good umpire-player relationships through that. I'm just wondering how you guys get on, because you wouldn't be like us where you can have a quiet beer after the game with the players.
No, exactly. Look, we do try and build relationships, albeit in different ways. In the pre-season, we do a lot of club visits. So I think each umpire would go out to probably at least 6, maybe up to 12 club visits in the summer, and that's all about chatting about rules or rule changes or umpiring their scratch matches or drills. And that's an opportunity when our guards are down. There's no emotion; they can just ask questions. And if we pay a free kick in a drill they don't understand, then we have a few minutes to talk about it. So clubs are brilliant in that regard. It's become a thing that they've embraced a lot more over the last few years since I've been there. It's a way just to build rapport. And it's like anything. I'm sure you guys have all got players that you know better than others that you can have a chat with on game day, and they naturally gravitate towards you. It's no different in the AFL.
All right, thanks, Curtis.
No worries.
Anyone else want to jump in? I can always find questions. Why no one's? Here we go. No, it's all right.
Colin.
Here we go.
I'd just like to say, hey, going, Curtis.
Hey, Amin, how are you, mate?
Yeah, good. And just like to, congratulate you on your career. And obviously, I had a little bit to do, not a little bit to do with you, but obviously witnessed you, and I'm sure I did a few games with you. And it's good to see people like yourself and Craig Flair and that, umpiring at the, at the top level, and you're doing a good job, mate. So well done.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
No worries.
It is a sense of pride. If you've had anything to do with someone like you, Curtis, we all follow you and admire you. Shane Harris, who I work pretty closely with these days, he says he obviously feels a real sense of pride in what you've achieved, and he wants to write a book about you one day. That's how strongly he feels about it. What sort of role did Shane play in your career?
Oh, huge. He was massive. I mean, he's obviously been at the SANFL since I think I was 6 years old. So he saw my whole career develop. He instilled, I guess, a confidence in me that I could handle the big occasion. And I think what's brilliant about Shane is that when he sees something in you that he likes, he knows when to give you an opportunity and knows when to hold you back. So there were times when, I thought, I should be doing this final, or I was close to the grand final and I missed out. I feel like I'm ready. And he just says, it's not your time. You got to learn this, this, and this first before you get there. And I'm so glad he gave me those extra years of development, because they were crucial. It's easy to be elevated quickly and make it perhaps to the AFL when you're not ready. And it's pretty brutal, so you can get spat out. So I'm glad that, Shane made sure I took my time. And by the time I got there, I was ready, I think.
Yeah, and you're seeing what Craig did last year, being appointed to the grand final for South Australian DC. It'd be something you're setting your sights on, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a funny one. So me and Fleary are best mates. We've been best mates for a long time. Met at the SANFL in 2006. So we've always been very competitive amongst ourselves, and our careers have ebbed and flowed. And I always thought that, if he got a granny before me, I'd be pretty jealous. But it was actually the total opposite. I was genuinely happy for him. I've seen what he's been through with footy. It's not always an easy journey, as we know. So for him to be the first SA guy to get it on the field, and to do such a brilliant job, it was, like you guys said just then, it makes you proud. He's a great friend. He goes through the same stuff as we all do with footy, and he represents us brilliantly. So yeah, it was brilliant to see him do that.
Now, where are you umpiring this week, so we can follow what you do on Saturday?
I'm going to Brisbane GWS, which will be a brutal game, I'm sure. They're always very hard at it, so we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, nice.
Curtis, can I just throw one? Thanks for your chat tonight. A couple of us do big pre-seasons, myself included. But I'm really interested, how long do you get off, a break after your season finishes, and maybe the load that you might do, easing into January and everything like that? That'd just be interesting for us guys. So you think Simo pushes us around a bit, but just from your perspective, be interested in getting an insight into that.
Yeah, cool. So normally we have a break until about late November or mid-November. We have a good 6-week block leading into Christmas, then a couple of weeks off, and then we're back for good from January. Last year, given the season went until the end of October, we had the extended break until January. So I think that might be the thing now. We're going to train remotely until after Christmas, but I'm not sure. Personally, so there used to be a lot more emphasis on time trials, and now it's a lot more on the weekly sessions that we're completing and our data and our consistency there. So a couple of guys happy with that. I was pretty happy with that too. So I used to base all of my training around my time trial target time. So literally every single rep I would do, I would know my splits that I was trying to get, and everything I did that was a rep in training, I'd have to run in my own head quicker than my target time. So that prepared me really well. So now without that, I don't know, I just run the sessions. It's harder to have a target, but again, it's all about balance. So not having the stress of a time trial looming over your head is pretty nice. So we're not complaining.
Cool. Thank you.
Just a quick one here. I got here pretty late in the Zoom meeting. Maybe it was discussed, but after a game and after a very close game like Melbourne and Adelaide, and you had the big talk around all over Australia was that deliberate decision. As umpires, the three of yous, do you go after the game and have a little discussion, talk about these, a particular decision that sort of, was maybe a little bit iffy? And do you guys have any correspondence straight after the game?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's only natural. I mean, there's, regardless of whether it's a controversial end or not, there's always decisions in a game where we go, do we pull the right rein? What did you think of that? Because peer feedback is really important to us. So we definitely have those discussions. And then I'm sure Lee probably explained it when he was on, but we have a pretty thorough process of debriefing for every game. So we put in our own feedback in the next day or two. Some guys watch the whole game through and like to list every decision. Some guys watch only the key parts that they really want to learn from or want to get some clarity on. And then we send that feedback through. And then on the Monday, we get the feedback sent from our AFL coaches, and we go through that individually with them over Zoom with our clips from the weekend. And then on Tuesdays as a group, we'll go through the broader issues. So yeah, we absolutely share stuff between us and bounce ideas and thoughts off each other. And then we go through the formal process.
Okay, cool. Thanks for that.
No worries.
All right. And I think most would be aware, but just tell us what number you wear, Curtis, in case anyone wants to watch out for you.
Number 11.
Did you have any say in that number or...
I did actually, because that year 4 of us got on, and so there were 4 numbers available, and I was the one that had been on the rookie list the longest. So they said, you get to choose. What do you want? There was 11, 22, 33, or 13. So obviously didn't go 13. But yeah, I grew up on number 11, and my dad's favorite number was always 11 because he said you're number 1 twice. So I thought that was pretty good logic.
Well, Scotty McLaren, wasn't it? The previous.
Yes. Yep, it was. So he puts pressure on me to perform every week.
He's one of your coaches now, is he?
Yeah, he's involved with the ARC, so he does reviews of decisions in the review centre, so he determines yes or no on a lot of our big calls.
Yeah, nice. Now we've got 2 minutes remaining on this Zoom. It only goes to 40 minutes. So, mate, thank you so much for coming on. Like, we are so lucky to, as a group, be hearing from yourself and Lee, and coming up Craig and Eleni. So, really appreciate your time today, and we'll be watching you closely and following you for the rest of the season and beyond.
No, thanks very much. Obviously the Amateur League, or the Adelaide Footy League, has a special place in my heart. So always happy to come back and chat, and appreciate the support, mate.
Fantastic. Great stuff, mate. All the best, everyone, for a great week. We'll see you Wednesday night for training. And we'll look forward to getting together on the Zoom next week as well.